If everything didn't go back to money, the answers would probably get answered.
You think the answers are in general just love and I guess tolerance or acceptance?
Not always love. It's just with every scenario, why does it have to create a profit?
Yeah, I know. Every time there's like, well, there's not a profit model there. Like in here, people immediately were asking me, like, "What's your profit model?" I'm like, "Man, we're, we're just getting started. I don't know. My profit model is to talk to people, and I'm going to get whatever I need from that at first. And as we grow and the right people come to me for sponsorships, then we'll talk. But I'm not going to sponsor a dildo company, right? I'm not going to just bring a shake weight in here, like it's going to be something that with purpose and intention. And I hope that I don't sell out that way. But I mean, if Shake Weight offered me $50,000 an episode, I'd probably be all about some Shake Weight. I'd be like, Shake Weight, yeah.
I mean,
but
it's not bad money.
No, what 58 episode? Come on.
I'm just.
I mean,
that's where the politicians. That's where your Candace Owens and your other extremists get their perspectives from, because you got people throwing crazy money at them like that.
Well, what bugs me is like she pops up and she decides she wants a podcast and she's immediately funded so much that she can have a crowd and she can have a Bill Maher show. She's basically doing what HBO does, but she's Candace Owens. And, I mean, she's not experienced, she's not as experienced at this as Bill Maher or Rogan or anyone, and she's just in there doing it, and she's filling it out as she goes. More power to her, but, I'm like, man, she literally, she started this podcast and she hired 500 people to run her whole show around her. It's like, that's not possible.
Well, that's not her money. That should tell you something.
Well, I know, but it's ridiculous but she's being propped up, and I wonder if she realizes that she's being propped up by some people who probably don't have her best interest in mind. And she's being used as a figurine for conservative people viewpoints, but maybe not in the way she wants it to be. And she makes some sense when she says certain things that are controversial about her black brethren, right? She says things that white people point out things about other white people all the time, and we're like, yeah, you're right, we should probably not be that way, and black people do it to each other, and I imagine it happens in all cultures, but
I don't know the correct term, but for the most part, she's just the blackface for some of the stuff that
white people can't say.
That point of view wants to say, but can't say.
Yeah.
And she's willing to say it.
Yeah, and I mean, I really think she means a lot of the things that she says, and she means them in a good way. But I feel after recently, the video that I watched, she was making a good point about the trans community, and that's all fine, but it's the method that was wrong, right? Why are we talking about our tweets on a live show? Why are our tweets that important? That's so stupid, right? It's so stupid. And then the crowdsourcing and having a crowd in there. I mean, they didn't even try to put any black people in the audience. They could have tried.
I think that would be hard pressed.
But why? But this is the question I'm trying to get at about Miss Owens. Is why do no black people want to get in her corner?
There's some that want to get in her corner.
Sure, a handful, but not you'd think that if she was really like this, that the whole community would be like, yeah, Candace is our girl, because you guys rally around the right people. I mean, you guys really do. When y'all find your person, that person becomes a sounding board for.
We're what, 13% of the population? So
I think maybe a bit more now. But she did make a good point. And she was talking about how Latin Americans are now the new subclass, and black Americans are no longer a subclass, and black Americans are now maybe she didn't stay, but like maybe not standing shoulder to shoulder with the whites as far as like power and influence, but certainly no longer the poor subclass, which now is Latin Americans. And I've actually had Latin Americans on in here to talk about that. And the truth of the matter is, I don't think Latin Americans are a subclass at all, because Orlando and Amero are doing really well for themselves, and they are just one or two of millions of people. But I just think Latin Americans just don't speak a lot, and they keep their head down, and they do their job, and they work hard, and they make their money, and they're quiet about it. And that's, in my opinion, part of the American dream, is being able to do that with autonomy.
Well, that's another thing. When you have the ability to straddle the fence, that's like a slap in the face. When you're at a position where you can pull somebody up and you choose not to, that's where the disconnect comes in.
I think so, yeah.
So whether you do good, it's not going to hurt you or hinder you if you speak up about an injustice. If it's right, it's right.
Yeah.
But with that segment, you got some that position themselves as white, and then you got some that position themselves as Latin. So.
And you're talking about the Latin Americans?
Yeah. So.
And that's a spectrum. For
yeah,
sure.
there's still two, but our segment is still smaller and still has the focus on everything, from crime, from hell, even the lack of COVID vaccines.
Well, and that's what's interesting is like why are Black Americans choosing to not be vaccinated at a high rate?
It's not that we're choosing. Hell, I think
it's free. You can just go to Walgreens and get one, Freddie.
See, but that's the thing. Why make one little sector of healthcare free, and then you're mandating it, and then you're forcing almost 80 million Americans to make a decision that they necessarily shouldn't have to make?
I think this is me looking in from the outside, because I'm not Black and I can't know what it's like to be Black, but I think that Black Americans have a serious distrust for government, and you should. Right? I mean, you should. I mean, look at what's happened over the last 2 centuries in this country. And so for me, it's like a lot of people are on the fence about it. And a lot of white people have a mistrust for government, big government especially, which is what we're facing right now. And we're just like, fuck you, man. I'm not going and getting that shot because you're telling me to. Especially now that you told me I have to. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go buy an AR-15. Like, that's like, you tell me I have to get a shot, I'm going to go buy a gun. Like, that's what a lot of people think.
But, these news flashes and these things about vaccinations and, you throw in the African American standpoint out there. How are you going to put the biggest spreaders of a virus when we're like, let's say 15%?
There's no way you're the biggest spreader of the virus.
15%. But
it probably is like 13.9% of the population. You can't be the biggest spreaders.
The way they narrated on television and stuff, it's like that.
Well, it's really funny, though, how the Black Lives Matter movement was hijacked by the Democratic Party during the elections, and then now they're just eating you alive in the press, and they're talking about how blacks aren't being vaccinated. They're part of the problem now. Black Lives Matter? No, they don't. You need to get vaccinated, then you'll matter. And that's just such a hypocrisy.
So, one news segment is the African American population. Then the next segment is the unvaccinated. Which one is it?
Yeah. And I think that whole rhetoric is a complete and bogus lie. I mean, it's just really black and white for me. It's like the virus is going around. My doctor told me that this is how all viruses work, by the way, whether you got the flu shot or the vaccine for COVID. You can get the flu even if you have the flu shot, and you can give it to other people. It will transpire through you, but you will not get sick from that flu. You just won't. Same with COVID, same with all the things. And so you're still a conduit for all the things that pass through our culture, the viruses and stuff. But, it will affect you differently than it will affect someone else, especially if you are vaccinated. And so that's just science. Okay, so everything they're saying in the media about how the unvaccinated are killing the vaccinated, it's just not true. It's like the vaccinated are vaccinated, and that virus is going to affect them how it affects them, right? But I tell you, that Georgia-Clemson football game didn't help anybody. It's not helping anybody.
But you ain't heard any news about.
Yeah, well, I have. Fox, Tucker Carlson pops up in my feed sometimes from Fox, and he was like, hey, look at all these people without masks on. It's funny, NBC's not talking about them, are they? And he's pointing out what you're pointing out. But, it is ironic that no one's saying anything about, because, football is sacred. You can't, we're so glad. And the universities are finally making their money again. Packed house, Clemson, Georgia, first game of the year. I mean, how much money did that stadium make that day? Probably millions of dollars. Millions. Not a couple $100,000, but millions of dollars were made. Probably off concessions alone, never mind the tickets that were purchased.
Yeah.
Never mind the advertising. The TV deals and all the sponsors. I mean, come on. It's insane.
It's just profit over people.
Yeah. I think that's how we should end this one, yeah?
Sounds good to me.
I mean, Freddie, thank you, man.
Thank you.
I'm Josh Lloyd, and you're on the Ridge. This has been a good one. Yeah.
That's good.